because some scholars did allow it. The famous Hanbali scholar Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, he said that a man may kiss the vagina of his wife before intercourse without karaha, and after intercourse it is makruh. And he said the same applies for a woman, that she may kiss the man's organ with passion. He actually said this, that with passion she may enjoy in the man's organ. And he also said this is the position of Ata, the Tabi'i. And in the famous Al-Fatawa Al-Hindiyya of Hanafi fiqh, the famous Fatawa Hindiyya that was compiled, I believe under the Alamgir time frame. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that. But in the Fatawa Al-Hindiyya, it says that if a man inserts his, by the way, Fatawa Hindiyya is not that old. It's only like 200, 300 years old. So it's not one of the ancient books, but it is a relatively more modern one. It says that if a man inserts his penis into his wife's mouth, some have said this is makruh, and some have said that it is not makruh. So we have that reference there. And Al-Qurtubi, the famous Andalusian scholar, he mentions in his tafsir that Al-Asbagh Al-Maliki, the famous earlier Maliki scholar, he says that he quotes from Al-Asbagh, which is one of the classical scholars of the Maliki madhab, that it is allowed for the man, this is explicit, brothers and sisters, it is allowed for the man to lick his wife's organ. يَلْحَسَهُ بِلِسَانِ, it literally says to lick. So we have some very few references that some of our scholars considered it to be permissible. At the same time, a lot of modern scholars considered it to be impermissible.
That's why the majority of the scholars would go with the opinion that it is absolutely haram, completely prohibited, or makruh, highly discouraged. The mouth and the tongue, my brothers and sisters in Islam, were created for a higher purpose, and that is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much, to pray, to read the Quran. So how could that same mouth do other things which are looked at as morally low?
I would like to ask, is oral sex allowed?
Okay, so between the husband and wife, it really goes back to them, what they feel comfortable with. The origin is that there's no prohibition concerning that. So therefore, the fact that there's no prohibition means they would be permissible. Some of the ulama are explain that maybe this isn't befitting because, some cultures don't, they see this as something which is qabih. It's not something right, or for example, that with the fact that we make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recite Quran, and then the person was to engage in such an action, that's not really befitting either. This is all go towards it is saying it is disliked, which, I mean, that they have the right to say that. However, to say haram, there's no evidence to say it is haram. So therefore, if both spouses are comfortable doing that, then they can, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best. Ensuring that, because there are other questions that are attached to that, ensuring that you don't swallow anything. Okay, you don't ensure that you don't swallow anything. Other than that is permissible, Allahu A'lam.
But when it comes to the proper etiquette, and when one thinks about it, this is the tongue which I recite the Quran with, or this is a place which is full of either normal flora, which may become which may cause a disease, which may cause an infection, etc. So it is better from a medical point of view to avoid it. And it is better with regards to respecting the mouth, which I mentioned the name of Allah with it. But is it haram? No, it is not haram. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam.
The correct opinion is that it is, we cannot say it is haram. And maybe that's the safest way to put it. You cannot say it is haram. Why? Because there's no evidence for it. And secondly, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allowed the man to enjoy with his wife, just like the wife has been permitted to enjoy with her husband. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put the parameters, the borders of what is halal and what is haram. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Your Lord was never forgetful. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made halal, it is halal. What Allah has made haram, it has made haram, as in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what Allah has kept quiet about, then that is a concession by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is not haram to have oral sex, especially, maybe we should add and say especially, because there's a lot of people who cannot satisfy their spouses just through intercourse. So if there's a need for that, meaning otherwise there'll be problems in the marriage because there's no emotional or sexual satisfaction, which is one of the goals of marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He put desires in the human beings, the desire of intercourse, and Allah put a channel for it. This is the halal way for it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the desire of food. Human being loves to eat. And Allah put the halal, these are the halal food. Human being has the desire of sleep. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the right way of doing, and all of that, all of these things. So there's nothing wrong with that, insha'Allah, wallahu a'lam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows best.
Chapter 15 of my book, A Taste of Honey, Sexuality and Erotology in Islam. And he then went on to say, one of our scholars, Ibn Arabi al-Maliki, cited Asbagh as saying, it is even permissible for the man to lick the genitalia with his tongue, meaning it is even permissible for the man to perform cunnilingus on his wife. The Hanbalis, Malikis and Shafi'is are of the opinion that oral stimulation is permissible. So they are of the opinion that oral sex is permissible, is halal. And then the eminent Muslim scholar, Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, said, Muslim jurists are of the opinion that it is lawful for the husband to perform cunnilingus on his wife, or for a wife to perform the similar act for her husband, and there is no wrong in doing so. But if sucking leads to releasing semen, then it is blameworthy, ay makruh. But there is no decisive evidence to forbid it. So Dr. Yusuf Qaradawi, who is a scholar who studied in Al-Azhar University in Egypt, he said that because there is no clear evidence to prohibit it, that oral sex is halal, it is permissible for both men and for women. Despite there being no explicit prohibition of oral sex in the sacred law, some Arab and Asian Muslims disapprove of the practice due to cultural attitudes towards what is considered acceptable sexual practices.